The time is just gone 20 minutes past 9 a.m. as we continue with the program this morning. And it's time now to join Professor Amina and Ngubane. We're talking about Disability Rights Awareness Month, and this runs from the 3rd of November to the 3rd of December. And this is about rights. It's about the rights of disabled people, affording them by the Constitution in terms of the human rights, and also looking at them as individuals. They need to be included in a life where that is of value to the community, and also at the same time looking at a number of issues. Now we've seen the government, we've seen the white paper on the rights of persons with disabilities, and it's basically a call of action for the government, civil society, and also the private sector to work together to ensure the socio-economic inclusion of persons with disabilities. Professor Amina and Ngubane, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you so much.
Yes, Jummah Mubarak to you, and we thank you. We appreciate you taking time out, talking to us this morning. And let's talk about this month. This month is obviously crucial. It reminds us of the plight of people with disabilities, but more importantly, a call to action, Professor Amina.
Yeah, now, first, again, to give salam to the listeners and to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for affording this opportunity. Yes, this month is meant to actually highlight the plight of people with disabilities and try and get communities to actually form some kind of awareness on how they can include people with disabilities in their everyday life. And as we say, when you look at the Sustainable Development Goals, they actually have different rights to education, right to development, right to, different other things. So we are trying to ensure that we leave no one behind. And when you leave no one behind, that includes people with disabilities.
Well, certainly. And also, I think this is the reason why we're talking about this white paper that speaks about the rights of persons with disabilities. And it is basically not only recognizing the fact that, we have disabled people and the challenges that they face, but more importantly, in terms of a call to action, because, a lot of talk and no action will achieve absolutely nothing.
Absolutely. For quite long, when you look at our constitution, if I may start there, it actually recognizes the rights of all citizens, including people with disabilities. So we have become very, if I can use the word naughty as South African citizens, is that we have learned to be politically correct. So we'll have things like we welcome people with disabilities. But the truth is that when you get there, there is no proper ramp for the person to come in. And sometimes even when they're inside, the bathrooms are not conducive for a person with a disability. So as we call people to action, we are saying, first, prepare your environment, actually make it conducive for people with disability, so that when you are saying that you are inclusive in your approach as per the white paper, it should not just be the words, but it should be seen through your action. Our public transport should be conducive for people with disabilities. Our schools, as we said, in terms of mainstreaming, we're supposed to be having inclusive schools, but when we do the research that we do, most schools are actually not ready for people for learners with disabilities. So in this period, we want to call people to action to say, can we please reflect on our practices and sort of see how we maybe unintentionally exclude people with disabilities.
Yes, Professor Amina, what you are saying obviously is to provide the necessary support structures for
Yes.
disabled people. And just looking at where we are at this point in time, how far down the line have we come? Do we have sufficient resources to provide those support structures? And what are some of the issues that are challenging us at this point in time or hampering any progress with regards to some of these strategies go?
You see, the first thing, as with anything, it's attitude. So the social construction of people with disability is still, leaves a lot to be desired. Because if we see them as people that have abilities instead of focusing on the disability itself, then we will stop focusing on the disability and look at what are the different other knowledge skills that they have. I'll give you an example. I work with people that are visually impaired, and when you work with them, it's fascinating how we totally rely on vision. But with them, they have learned to actually master the art of touching, the art of smelling. They will just get by smell and tell you that that is Amina, that is coming, So these kinds of things where as a society we must learn to first change our attitude and see disability as ability, because they have enhanced sort of a sensory than us, because when you lack vision, then other senses of yours are better than when you cannot hear, then there are other senses of yours that work much better than some of us that we think we are able. And then secondly, is what I just mentioned, the issue of we want to sound as if we know, but the truth is that you will never know how to accommodate a person with a disability until you have an honest conversation with the person themselves. So we lack in honest and authentic engagements with people with disabilities on who they are and how how do they feel in their societies, in their families, and how would they like to be included. In most cases, when you get to certain spaces, people decide for them. It's as if they cannot actually make a choice of what is it that how do they want to be accommodated. Then the other issue also is that we normally have companies or whatever spaces that will say that they'll include people with disabilities, but unfortunately they don't have what we'll call a disability budget. Why am I highlighting the issue of the disability budget? Because to include a person, you need to actually make certain accommodations. For example, if you have a person that has, let's say, visual impairment, they will need specific software and assistive devices that would actually enable them to work on their own. So instead of you sitting there and reading the sort of like normal text for them, the documents that we use, you rather have facilities where it's either they can have access to Braille. So when you have a meeting, you'll then prepare the minutes in Braille for them so that they can read on their own. They don't need someone to read for them. Then you will have the agenda in Braille, or you can have all the documents sent to them electronically prior to the meeting so that they can then access them in the format that they, are comfortable with. So we need, again, strategies on how we include people so that people stop saying that disability is expensive. Most companies, when you look at it, as South Africa, we have a target of 7% of employment of people with disabilities, but we have not even achieved 2% of it. Now, the question is, we need to go back and say, what is it that we are not doing right as the corporate sector and also as the public sector, to say, what is it that we're not doing right to actually reach the 7% government target. So we, as you introduced me, you said that I'm a founder of MarginsToTheCentre. We actually now are working with all stakeholders to assist them in terms of understanding how one can include a person with a disability. I've got calls from people that will ask that I want to I'm advertising a post. So how do I interview a person with a disability? And I'm like, no, a job interview is a job interview. The only difference is that if a person has hearing impairment, then you must get a sign language interpreter to be there so that they can then mediate the communication. But if it's a person that is blind, you'll just ask questions, as you know, that you're asking all the other candidates. So trying to accommodate a person with a disability does not mean that you reduce the quality of the interview, or you must try and sort of like babysit. Because if the interview is for example, a professor, or so the person is coming in with the skill of research just like other candidates. So the way that you are going to interact with them is the same, unless if they need some kind of mediation because of, like in example, if someone is deaf, or if you need then to make sure that if the person is on a wheelchair, the interview is not in a room that has steps going up and down. So it's about all those sort of like details that you need to pay attention to.
Yes, Professor Amina. In fact, time is obviously of the essence, but we know these are early days in terms of the month, and we're on the 5th of November. We have got right until the 3rd of December, and I'm sure over the next few weeks, we will be providing a lot more focus on this particular aspect and looking at Disability Month and drilling down in a lot more detail to certain specific issues. You've raised so many issues which raises further discussion, and we're definitely going to be needing a lot more time. But unfortunately, as I said, time has run out. But inshallah, over the next month, we definitely will call on you, and we will focus on a lot more issues as the month proceeds, and right until the day on the 3rd of December, which obviously is going to be an important day. And we look forward to engaging with you once again, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam. Shukran for the opportunity.
Professor Amina Ngubane joining us this morning, and that is the beginning of Disability Rights Awareness Month, which started on the 3rd of November and culminating on the 3rd of December. So a lot more discussion on this particular topic, but right now we're going to go for a break. We'll come back. We'll be joined by Ahmed Manzoor Sheikh, Imam of the NFP.